Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. It is officially fall here in the United States. It is September. It's not really fall in Dallas, Texas, but we can lean into it, and that's why we're here today. If you're anything like me, I avidly collect kind of like fall season books all year round. Of all the types of books you can buy, romance, fantasy, thriller, dark academia, YA, fill in the genre, I tend to buy books that I feel like should be read in the fall. They probably take up about 75% of my TBR, which kind of poses a problem because I was noticing over the summer, every time I would pull books from the TBR jar and things like that, they're all books that I really want to read. I have to read books in kind of the setting that they take place in. So I can't read fall books in the summer and I can't read spring books in the winter. So I kind of just hoard all of my seasonal books and then I'll binge read them all at the same time. And I kind of thought, since it's officially fall, it might be fun to go through like my top books that I think would be perfect to read for me that I have on my physical TBR this fall. So September, October, November. For me, winter doesn't really officially start till December, January, February. So I'll save my winter books for then. But these are all books that I feel like give kind of dark, spooky, mysterious, just atmospheric vibes, or the plot kind of falls into that general autumnal feeling. So I'm really excited to be chatting with you today about the 20 books that I think are perfect to read in September, October, November, just based off of judging them by the cover. I'm gonna be honest, because some of these you look at them and you're like, wow, that is the most autumnal book I think I've ever seen. Some of these are based off of the cover and the description of the plot. Some of them maybe I just kind of picked on a whim or based off of what people have told me. Now, I've not read any of these books personally. These are all that are on my TBR. So if you've read any of these and you're like, you know what, actually, I feel like you should save this for a different season, let me know, because that happened to me with Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I thought it would be a perfect spring read. It actually was more maybe like late fall, winter of a setting. And so hindsight, I would have read Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies earlier than I did, and I would have read it in the winter, not the spring. But I tried my best to pick books that I think are just going to give me that autumnal vibe. Count how many times I say that in this video. Now, all of these 20 books, I do not plan to read all of them in the autumn. This is just kind of a little like condensed TBR for me to pick from based off of what I'm feeling. And I also tried to divide all 20 books into books that I think should be read in September, like maybe they're school themed, academia, maybe just like more cute, cozy fantasy. October, I picked things that might have more mythical creatures, witches, goblins, and then also maybe some thrillers or some spooky books. November, I tried to pick more like dark, atmospheric, gothic style books. Now, not all of these kind of fall in that category, but again, I judged these by their covers, so bear with me on that. But I just thought this would be kind of a fun activity to go through, and also kind of helps bring books that I've been putting on the back burner of my TBR and bring them to the front of my TBR, because I have been waiting to read these books, but I just knew I'm not gonna be able to get into it when it's 110 degrees outside and the sun is roasting me in Texas. I have to be like able to be cozy in my sweater with my coffee and just like the lights are down low and it's chilly outside and maybe there's frost if we're lucky in Texas. So I think these books might be perfect for that. So without further ado, let's jump into the books I think I want to read, or try to read some of them in September. Some of these books are also parts of series. I tried to avoid series books, but some of them, I started it like last autumn and I knew I wasn't gonna want to finish the series until autumn came around again. So have I been waiting a year to finish some of these series? Yes, I have. And do I even remember much about the first book? TBD. We'll figure it out. Might have to watch some YouTube videos to catch up. The first book is the second book in the Zodiac Academy series. This is Ruthless Fae. I chose this one because it's academic and I also think it'll help me reset after the summer. I read so much romance this summer. I kind of just need like a brain break from romance entirely, but maybe something that's not like too hardcore gothic academic fantasy. And so I thought this would be kind of fun because I also haven't really read any fantasy this summer. I've been putting putting that off for autumn. Did I love the first book in Zodiac Academy? Genuinely, I don't remember a single thing about book one. Now, people rave about this series. I can kind of see the potential, and I'm hoping that this kind of seals it in for me either way. I do own the first 3 books in the series. I read the first. If I like this one, I'll go on to book 3. If I don't like it from there, I'll just stop buying them. Next is Dance of Thieves. This is the first book, and I believe a duology, but it's also part of a series that isn't talked about as much. Kiss of Deception, The Remnant Chronicles, which I think I have. This book. These are the old covers. I don't know if they sell these covers anymore. I read this when I was in high school, maybe. Really liked it. I think it got me into my kind of romance, but it really was kind of more of a fantasy with like light romance and a YA setting. This comes before The Remnant Chronicles, and I am interested in rereading the series because it's been so long for me. I just kind of want that nostalgia, but I also want to learn a little bit more about the world, and that starts with this series. So Dance of Thieves is about a formidable outlaw family that claims to be first among nations. A son destined to lead, thrust suddenly into power. 3 fierce young women of the Rattan, the Queen's premier guard, a legendary street thief leading a mission determined to prove herself, a dark secret that is a threat to the entire continent, and when the outlaw leader meets reformed thief, a cat and mouse game of false moves ensues, bringing them intimately together in a battle that may cost them their lives and their hearts. This definitely is, I think, like YA fantasy with tidbits of romance. Really, I'm looking for something that has a little bit more found family, a little bit more like Throne of Glass, and from what I remember about the Remnant Chronicles, it was more of like a found family vibe. So I'm hoping to get that from this, but definitely just from what I remember about this series, such a great YA fantasy to read in the autumn. I'm really hoping this carries through. If it doesn't, I'll move on and I'll read it at a different point. I also bought my mom these for her birthday because we both would read this series together all the time, and I thought she and I can kind of expand our world and our familiarity with this story by reading these together. So a little bit of a 2 birds, 1 stone thing with that. Next, like I said, I was trying to pick cozy fantasy for September, so I picked The Spell Shop. This has been on my TBR since last year. I got one of the original Purple Sprayed Edges editions. Wow. Yeah, I haven't read it because the receipt's still in here from last year. That's crazy. You did not see that. Anyways, this just looked so cute. I picked this up after reading Assistant to the Villain. I love that series. I think it's so cute, and I really was just looking for another cozy fantasy, and then I kind of forgot that I had this. Now, the second book for this series did come out, so if I like this, I do want to jump and go get that before the sprayed edges are gone because my books need to match. I'm snobby that way, and it's just, I really need to get over it because also sprayed edges, I'm kind of over the sprayed edges too, so maybe this is a good place for me to start. But this one seemed really cute and just like a cozy, quick fantasy read. Kyla? However you pronounce her name. Keela, we'll call her Keela, has always had trouble dealing with people. Thankfully, as a librarian at the Great Library of Elysium, she and her assistant Kaz, a magically sentient spider plant, love that, have spent the last decade sequestered among the Empire's most precious spellbooks, preserving their magic for the city's elite. When a revolution begins and the library goes up in flames, she and Kaz, the plant, she and Kaz flee with all the spellbooks they can carry. How does Kaz move? I need to know. Does he like walk on his roots? Does he like sit on her shoulder like a parrot? Now I'm really intrigued. She and Kaz flee with all the spellbooks they can carry and head to a remote island Keela never thought she'd see again, her childhood home. Taking refuge there, Keela discovers, much to her dismay, a nosy and very handsome, because why wouldn't he be handsome, neighbor who can't take a hint and keeps showing up day after day to make sure she's fed and to help fix up her new home. Ugh, an acts of service, man. Love. In the need of income, Keela identifies something that even the bakery in town doesn't have: jam. That's random. With the help of an old recipe book her parents left her and a bit of illegal magic, her cottage garden is soon covered in ripe berries. But magic can do more than make life a little sweeter, so Keela risks the consequences of using unsanctioned spells and opens the island's first ever and much needed secret spell shop. Like a Hallmark rom-com full of mythical creatures and fueled by cinnamon rolls and magic, the spell shop will heal your heart and feed your soul. That sounds so cute. Do I think this will be a 5-star read? I don't know, because Assistant to the Villain was a 5-star read for me, and that was just the coziest of cozy, goofy, fun, adorable cinnamon roll fantasy. Could this potentially be a 5-star read? Knowing me, yes. Do I think it'll be a 5-star read? I don't know. Next is Fairytale, and I kind of battled between thinking this was gonna be a September one or a November one because the cover is very dark and gothic and just so interesting. I am really glad I got this cover. I bought this a long time ago, and I think she's getting traditionally published. I am scared though, because as I'm looking, the font is so small. This is a very large, thick book. I've heard really good things about this book, and then recently, super recently, only negative things. So I don't know if it's one of those things where people loved it a year ago when it came out, a year or two ago, and now that they're sitting on it, and now that more people are reading it, now that it's getting picked up by a traditional publisher, we're starting to realize problematic things about it. Anytime I see somebody talk about this book, I scroll immediately because I don't want spoilers. I pretty much do that with book talk now completely because I feel like spoilers are just so hard to avoid. I don't really know anything about this book. August 1955. When Miss Darcy O'Sullivan, an orphan English teacher from Boston, love Boston, receives a letter that her biological father passed away, she is surprised to find herself included in his will. There's only one condition. She must travel to Fairytale to attend his funeral. With the promise of a sizable inheritance, Darcy decides to journey to the small coastal town that holds the secrets of her birth. But the moment she steps foot into Fairytale, things start to go amiss. Odd residents, odd rumors, and odd deaths. Everything about Fairytale is just odd, including brooding Caleb Hale, part of the infamous Hale family. During the day, she falls deeper and deeper under his spell as he forces her to step out of her comfort zone and embrace her inner sensuality. So this sounds more romance than fantasy. But at night, it's another man who haunts her dreams, Amon Darton, a nobleman who lived 2 centuries ago. Okay, so it's kind of giving Invisible Life of Addie LaRue now. Amon is sweet and suave, where Caleb is intense and dangerous, and Darcy feels more torn than ever. This is gonna be a wide choose. Who knows? Soon she finds herself embroiled in a triangle of lies. Deceit and inexplainable events that make her question her sanity. When an ancient evil threatens the town and everything Darcy holds dear, she must make the ultimate choice. But will she survive? This sounds like Once Upon a Time meets Zodiac Academy meets Twilight. This sounds interesting. Are there fairies in this book? I don't know. That description gave me absolutely nothing. In fact, the description kind of sounds really basic, but from what people have told me, it's not basic, or at least it doesn't feel written basic. So we'll see. This might be, after reading that, kind of sounds more like a November book, but we'll keep it for September because it kind of, it sounds a little different than the other books I've chosen so far. Back to another cozy fantasy, we have Legends and Lattes. I have had this book for so freaking long and I have to read it. Otherwise, I think I should just get rid of it because it's been on my TBR for so long. It looks adorable. After a lifetime of bounties and bloodshed, Viv is hanging up her sword for the last time. The battle-weary orc aims to start fresh, opening the first ever coffee shop in the city of Thune. But rivals old and new stand in the way of success, not to mention the fact that no one has the faintest idea what coffee actually is. That's a sad world. She's doing the Lord's work. If Viv wants to put the blade behind her and make her plans a reality, she won't be able to do it alone. But the true rewards of the uncharted path are the travelers you meet along the way. And whether drawn together by ancient magic, a flaky pastry, or a freshly brewed cup, they may become partners, family, and something deeper than she ever could have dreamed. Found family! I love this! Aw, and the cover is so cute! Look at it. It is glossy. I hate that, but it's adorable. It looks just like a fun, goofy, quick read. Oh, the font is huge too. Nice. And it's like under 300 pages. So this is just like a quick palette cleanser read. I think this is a good September one. It doesn't give me like mythical creatures that fits like October spooky time. This is more like cozy fantasy. And that's really the vibe I was going for in September. The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. This has been on my TBR for roughly a year now. And I actually am adding this one because I just picked up at the bookstore the second book in this series. I'm forgetting what it's called right now. It's in the other room, but it's really cute. It looks like this. I don't know if they're chronological or just in the same universe, but I have been dying to read this book. I've heard so many good things about it, and it seems both like a cozy fantasy, but also found family and definitely one that moves the heart. It's a warm and uplifting novel about an isolated witch whose opportunity to embrace a quirky new family and a new love changes the course of her life. As one of the few witches in Britain, Micah Moon knows that she has to hide her magic, keep her head down, and stay away from other witches so their powers don't mingle and draw attention. And as an orphan who lost her parents at a young age and was raised by strangers, she's used to being alone and she follows the rules, with one exception. An online account where she posts videos pretending to be a witch. She thinks no one will take it seriously. It's actually pretty clever, hiding in plain sight. But somebody does take her seriously. An unexpected message arrives, begging her to travel to a remote and mysterious nowhere house to teach 3 young witches how to control their magic. It breaks all of the rules, but Micah goes anyways, and is immediately tangled up in the lives and secrets of not only her 3 charges, but also an absent archaeologist, a retired actor, 2 long-suffering caretakers, and Jamie, the handsome and prickly librarian of Nora House, would do anything to protect the children, and as far as he's concerned, a stranger like Micah is a threat, an irritatingly appealing threat. Oh, it sounds so cute. As Micah begins to find her place at Nowhere House, the thought of belonging somewhere feels like a real possibility. But magic isn't the only danger in the world, and when peril comes knocking at their door, Micah will need to decide whether to risk everything to protect a found family she didn't know she was looking for. It sounds so good. Truly only heard good things about this, and even if it ends up not being as deep as it sounds, I love the premise of like real world problems, but you add a mythical fantasy whimsical twist to it. And finally for September, this was on my TBR a couple months ago, maybe April. Never got around to it because again, it didn't feel like the right time, but that was The Secret History. This looks so good. I studied philosophy in college, and so reading a book that's about students who are in like a philosophy class, quirky philosophy classics professor, I feel like I'll be able to relate to that so much. Maybe not like the overall plot, but just the vibe. I don't know, it just like take me back. It just seems so nostalgic. This does seem potentially like it inspired Katabasis by R.F. Kuang. Oh, dang. I totally forgot to add this to the list. We're gonna talk about this for November. Anyways, I was kind of like reading and I feel like this might have inspired Katabasis a little bit, but it seems so good. Under the influence of a charismatic classics professor, a group of clever, eccentric misfits at a New England college discover a way of thought and life a world away from their banal contemporaries. But their search for the transcendent leads them down a dangerous path beyond human constructs of morality. It seems like definitely like a morally gray, like it's gonna make you think book. I was watching a video that Dylan had posted, and I think he was right. He said the aesthetic of reading A Secret History is like so blown out of proportion. Everybody's reading this book. Everybody's posting about this book, whether it's on Pinterest or Instagram, because it's just like autumnal and aesthetic to post about. It makes you seem educated. That's like definitely not why I'm reading this. In fact, I'm actually a little nervous to be reading this because I think some of it is gonna go over my head. I think this is one I'm really gonna have to read when I'm very alert. I'm not gonna be able to read this one before bed. I'm picking it up because as a classics student and philosophy student, even though that's quite further in my past than I feel like it actually is, I'm hoping to understand maybe some of the context around their situation and what they're learning and some of the texts that they might be reading in this book. And so maybe I can use I have like a whole folder of everything that I read in college. I have 3 bookshelves full of all the philosophy books and classics that I read in college. So I'm hoping that maybe this inspires me to pick those books back up again, or I can at least use them to help me understand this book better. And a lot of what I'm saying right now, you're gonna hear probably regurgitated when I talk about Katabasis when it comes to the November reads. But I really am excited to read this, but I 100% agree with Dylan that this book is blown out of proportion. This book is probably not for everybody. I'm going in kind of just fresh eyes, going in kind of blind, and if I don't like it, I don't like it. And I'm not going to like pretend that I do like it just because I liked philosophy, because I'm not trying to look smart by reading this. I just hope that it's interesting. Okay, on to October books. I'm so excited about it. I really don't like reading horrors or honestly generally thrillers too. I maybe only read a couple thrillers a year, and they really can't be too scary because if I'm reading in the dark and I'm next to the window, which the window here doesn't have any blinds, I do get fully freaked out and can't sleep. And Kyle has to be home, otherwise I just get, I feel like somebody's watching me. I really try not to read too many spooky books. I am very heavily influenced, easily influenced, not easily influential, not a very influential person, I fear, but easily influenced. And so once the seed is planted, I'm for sure scared. For example, Pennywise, the clown. from It was living in that sewer with the giant crack. Where I grew up, those sewers did not exist. We just had the big kind of like gutters in the neighborhood. Where I live now has those big like cracks under the sidewalk where Pennywise would hide, and I will intentionally not walk over them. I will walk in the middle of the street. I won't walk next to them. I won't walk on top of them, and I'm 25 years old. Is it childish? Yes. Is there probably something I need to go therapy for? Probably yes. So you won't be seeing any of those books on this list, but I think there are still some kind of like spooky, creepy vibes going on. Also, I don't know if I talked about this, but this is my Salem mug. I wish I had enough self-control to save this mug simply for autumn. I do drink out of it 365 days a year, but I'm gonna sit here and pretend that this is like my special autumn mug. I visited Salem last year and I just thought this was freaking adorable. If anything ever happens to this mug, I will be devastated. I'm pretty sure I've said that on past videos before, but it is the truth. Perfect way to start off October. Slewfoot. This has been on my TBR for quite a while because how could I not be influenced by that cover? That's stunning. And then the more you look at it, it gets a little bit creepy. I am nervous. The back does look terrifying. Would that not terrify you? If you saw that in the window, it would terrify me. Pretty sure there are pictures in this too. I don't know, are there? Ooh, there are pictures in this. It's like posters. Okay, these pictures are a little scary. These pictures are really scary. Trigger warning. As though the world weren't scary enough right now, there's more fuel for your nightmares. Jesus. Okay, well, this is on my October list. It's about to be removed, but I'm happy to hand it off to your October list if anybody wants this book. This is terrifying. Set in colonial New England, Slewfoot is a tale of magic and mystery, of triumph and terror from acclaimed author and artist From. An ancient spirit awakens in a dark wood. The wild folk call him Father, Slayer, Protector. The wild folk. You can just call yourself a cult. It's okay. The colonists call him Slewfoot, Demon, and Devil. To Abatha, a recently widowed outcast, alone, vulnerable in her pious village, he is the only one she can turn to for help. Girl, times cannot be that desperate. There's no way he's your only option. Together they ignite a battle between pagan and Puritan, one that threatens to destroy the entire village, leaving nothing but ashes and bloodshed in its wake. This definitely feels like it inspired that one season of Riverdale, and if you've watched Riverdale, I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about. That season is when I stopped watching Riverdale altogether. Not only were they singing in nearly every episode and it just got a little bit too cheesy, but the antlered creature that was like people from the town, I didn't even like stick around to figure out who that was, what that was. I was terrified, absolutely terrified. I binged almost the whole season. Actually, I feel like it kind of went for a couple seasons. And finally I was like, this is way too scary. This is not what I thought Riverdale was, and I turned it off. But yeah, so go ahead and spoil it in the comments if you want. I would love to know what happened. I should probably just look it up. But anyways, this looks terrifying and that's why it's on the October list. I will start it. If I don't like it, I'm not going to like pursue it, and I probably will throw it away because that's just bad juju. But if it ends up not being as scary as I think it'll be, I will let you know, and it will be on my October wrap up. But no promises, because now I remember why this has been on my TBR for so long. This is freaking terrifying. This looks less spooky, but just as dark. Dowry of Blood. This I was influenced to buy by Kenzie Deeren. I believe she's raved about this several times. I bought this kind of around when Nosferatu was a huge fad. Still have not seen Nosferatu. I had Kyle go to the movie theater, watch it without me, and then give me the spark notes because I knew I would be a little bit scared. And then I kind of was like, this sounds a little bit kind of similar. Definitely Dracula inspired. It does have these like edges, which I don't particularly love. It makes it hard for me to read. I'm just like I'm a texture person. I've not read Dracula, so I hope that this isn't so heavily inspired where I'll wish I have read Dracula, but if you've read it, let me know. But saved from the brink of death by a mysterious stranger, Constanta, whatever. Connie is transformed from a medieval peasant into a bride fit for an undying king. But when Dracula draws a cunning aristocrat and a starving artist into his web of passion and deceit, Constanta realizes that her beloved is capable of terrible things. Finding comfort in the arms of her rival consorts, she begins to unravel their husband's dark secrets. Ooh, so this is like a harem. Very interesting. With the lives of everyone she loves on the line, Constanta will have to choose between her own freedom and her love for her husband, but bonds forged by blood can be broken only by death. A Dowry of Blood is a glittering tale of obsession, seduction, and power as told through the letters of Dracula's first bride. First bride gets around. I'm excited to read this. Definitely seems spooky. If I like this, I don't know, maybe I'll watch Nosferatu. I feel like now that I know how Nosferatu ends, it's not as scary. I just need to know how scary movies and books end, because sometimes it can just seem like, oh my gosh, everyone is and the bad guy's gonna win, and I can't have that. I will be honest, I think October is gonna be a tough reading month for me. I have these books, but I know myself and I will get so scared. Honestly, I'm gonna have to like read Slewfoot and then have like the most insane palate cleanser happy-go-lucky book, and then I'm gonna have to read Dowry of Blood and then read another happy-go-lucky book. I do have Accomplice to the Villain. I love this series. It's the new book that just came out, so maybe that'll be like my good little palate cleanser for October. I feel like it's also kind of a cozy fantasy, so it could fit any of these months. Next book is Dark Matter for October. This was recommended heavily by Amber, and I'll have all these accounts linked down below, but she raves about Dark Matter as a thriller, so I'm really excited for this one. And it's really short too, and that is the sign of a good thriller. If your thriller is 600 pages long, I'm asleep. It's taking me days to read. It is not thrilling. If it's like 200 pages, I know I'm gonna be able to finish it in a sitting and in a day. Whether it was good or not, I finished it in a day, and that's how a thriller should be. Frida McFadden, I'm looking at you. Not all your thrillers are good, but they are very short, and I thank you for it. Are you happy with your life? Those are the last words Jason Desson hears before the kidnapper knocks him unconscious. Before he awakens to find himself strapped to a gurney surrounded by strangers in hazmat suits. Before a man he's never met smiles down on him and says, "Welcome back, my friend." In this world he's woken up to, Jason's life is not the one he knows. His wife is not his wife, his son was never born, and Jason is not an ordinary college professor, but a celebrated genius who has achieved something remarkable, something impossible. Is it this life or the others that's the dream? And even if the home he remembers is real, how will Jason make it back to the family he loves? This is a mind-bending thriller about choices, paths not taken, and how far we'll go to claim the lives we dream of. One of the acknowledgements is the most helter-skelter race to the finish line thriller you'll read all year, with a clever, mind-boggling final twist. I do feel like saying something has a plot twist is kind of a spoiler, so thank you for that, because sometimes the twist doesn't come until like the middle, or maybe like 2/3 of the way through. But to say it's like at the very end, well, now I know that whatever I'm thinking on the last 10 pages might not even be real. That's just my opinion on spoilers and plot twists and everything. But this does seem really good. It doesn't seem scary, but Amber has acknowledged that this is a true thriller, so I'm going to take it as such. Also, can we just appreciate the absolute hideousness that is this permanent Apple TV sticker? Thank you so much, Apple. Next is a well-known, well-read book that I missed the bandwagon completely on, and that is Lights Out, because I bought this book and then I was like, should I do the audiobook, because everyone's raving about the audiobook, and then I was like, ugh, but I also want the book and the shelf trophy. And so I bought the book and the shelf trophy, and then the rave over the book ended, and it has sat on my TBR ever since. So here we are. I will be reading it because I can't justify owning the book and then buying the audiobook, but I have heard the audiobook is really good, so it is what it is. I made my bed, I now must sleep in it. Really, I mean, hindsight today, would I buy this book? No, probably not. But I do own it, I spent the money on it, and it seems kind of funny. If you've been living under a rock and you don't know what this is about, welcome, because I too have also forgotten what it's about. A dark romance like you've never seen before. Really? Like I've never seen before? Okay. Can you handle the ride? Probably, because I've probably seen it before. I want someone with a soul as black as night, someone who will burn the world down for me and not lose a single minute of sleep over it. That's a text message, by the way. Trauma nurse Ali Capalucci, if you're Italian, I'm sorry, doesn't need any more kinks. She likes the one she's landed on just fine. To her, nothing could top the masked men she follows online. She fantasizes about the one man in particular hunting her down, but she never could have guessed that one drunken text could make those dreams into reality. I want things most people don't, craving darkness and depravity instead of light and love. Okay, we've all read this book before, right? Like, this is definitely the opposite of a dark romance like I've never read before. Josh Hammond has spent his whole life avoiding the limelight, but his online persona is another story. At night, he posts masked thirst traps for his millions of fans, but one follower has caught his eye. Ding, ding, ding. It's Allie. Together, Allie and Josh live out their darkest fantasies, unaware that Allie has captured the attention of someone with far more sinister intentions. She probably likes that, as she said. As Josh turns from predator to protector, he must ask himself how far he'll go for the women he's obsessed with. Does this sound like a silly, goofy love child of Haunting Adeline and Butcher and Blackbird? Yes. Will it be a good time? Probably. Have I read this book in some way, shape, or form before? For sure. 1000% absolute certainty, yes. Next is This Fatal Kiss, one of the most beautiful, 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 beautiful covers that I own. Absolutely stunning. And if you want to be creeped out a little bit more, this is the hardback cover, which honestly looks quite a bit like Slewfoot. This is technically a YA fantasy with tidbits of romance, I believe. It's described as a delightfully queer polyamorous romance teeming with splashes of ethereal magic. Lovingly detailed Slavic folklore forms the basis of this gripping fantasy, engaging and immersive, a delight from start to finish. Those are like two of the nicest, most beautifully worded acknowledgements to, what is it called? They're not acknowledgements, it's something else. Kudos, blurbs, honestly, just like a beautiful way of putting it. But I love this little description. Spirit away with whimsical romantic fantasy filled with dark magic and flirty polyamorous romance. Cursed to haunt the river running through the magical spa town where she drowned, Gisela? I think it's Gisela. You're not a gazelle. Gisela is a water nymph who dreams of returning to the living world and the family she left behind. All it takes to regain her humanity is a kiss from a mortal. Everyone sees her as a monster. And then there's Kazik, the brooding, interfering, spirit-hunting grandson of a local witch who strives to rid the world of unholy creatures like Gisela. And after Kazik botches Gisela's exorcism, she strikes up a deal. She won't tell the other spirits that he's losing his magic if he agrees to play matchmaker and helps her get a kiss. You know, or she could just kiss him. Crazy. But Gisela's plans go awry when Kazik also falls for the devilishly handsome young man she sets her heart on, someone who could be linked to Gisela's troubled past. This seems very cute. I'm interested to see like how YA this is. If anyone here is confused about what makes a YA, specifically romance, different from an adult romance, join the club. I too am confused. And really, I just feel like the boundaries between YA and adult romance have blurred significantly in the past 3 to 5 years. And I really just feel like they don't exist at all anymore at this point. So I'm interested to see, is this gonna be like super black and white, or is this gonna kind of live in that gray area as well? I do hope it is a little bit more adult focused because the plot sounds really good. I just hope that the writing is more advanced like an adult romance would be. Finally, for October, we have one more, and that is Anatomy, a love story. If you have not seen this cover, pretty incredible. I love it. The heart with the dress, I think it's amazing. This has been on my TBR since January. I am really excited about this one. I just felt like it just seemed like such a good autumn read. Hazel Sinnott is a lady who wants to be a surgeon more than she wants to marry. Jack Kerr is a body snatcher who's just trying to survive in a city where it's too easy to die. When the two of them have a chance encounter outside of Edinburgh's anatomist society, Hazel thinks little of it at first. But after she gets kicked out of lecture given by renowned surgeon Dr. Beecham for being the wrong gender, she realizes that her new acquaintance Jack might actually be of use to her because Hazel has made a deal with Dr. Beecham. If she can pass the medical examination on her own, Beecham will allow her to continue her medical career. But without official lessons, Hazel will need more than just her books. She will need corpses to study. Luckily, Jack digs them up for a living. He's a gravedigger. But Jack has his own problems. Strange men have been skulking around around the cemeteries. His friends are disappearing off the street, and the dreaded Roman fever, which wiped out thousands a few years ago, is back with a vengeance. Nobody important cares, except for Hazel. Hazel and Jack work together to uncover the secrets buried not just in unmarked graves, but in the very heart of Edinburgh society. This just seems like so dark gothic, and I've seen so many videos on my FYP lately of Edinburgh. Anyways, it just seems so atmospheric, and this just seems like a good, like, October one specifically, I feel like, with the grave digging and the corpses and, you know, people disappearing. A little bit thrilling, maybe, but just kind of like a dark YA romance. So that wraps up October. Okay, I did originally have 7 books for November. However, I am adding my honorable mention, which I do honestly kind of plan to read a little bit sooner than November, which is Katabasis. And I'm really excited about that one, so we'll talk about it in just a minute. Starting off, we have Two Twisted Crowns. This is the second book in the Shepherd King duology. The first one is One Dark Window. I truly do not remember anything about One Dark Window. I remember being extremely disappointed and underwhelmed by it. I did feel like it was like the perfect November read. Think scarecrow trees, no leaves, gray skies, no snow, ravens, like just very like dark. Everything's dead. It's not quite winter yet. That was the vibe I was getting from this book, or the first book in this series. And ever since I've just I got this as a birthday gift 2 birthdays ago because I just haven't been interested in reading it, and I really need to. And so if you've not read the first book, skip ahead just a little bit because I'm going to read the description of this one. But this is the second book in the duology. Gripped by a tyrant king and in the thrall of dark magic, the kingdom is in peril. Elsbeth and Raven have gathered most of the 12 Providence cards, but the last and most important one remains to be found. If they're going to find the card before solstice to set free the kingdom, they will need to journey through a dangerous mist-cloaked forest. The only one who can lead them through is the monster that shares Elsbeth's head, the Nightmare, and he's not eager to share any longer. Welcome back. You can come back now. The first book basically is about this girl who has this monster living in her head. Their world is kind of dominated by this magic system where there are cards that basically exist, and each card, like playing card, has a different magical ability. And so the card holder has this magical ability, but every time you use the card, you also kind of like lose a part of your humanity because all magic comes with a price, as Rumpelstiltskin so kindly taught us in Once Upon a Time. Shout out to that show because that show changed the trajectory of my fantasy love forever. I have to finish this series, and I have heard the second book is so much better, and that's coming from people who both liked the series and didn't like the series. They all agree that book 2 is better. I've just been really hesitant to move forward on reading this, but I think it's time. I think I'm ready to go into it with fresh eyes. I don't expect to love it, but I do think it'll kind of like wrap up the series for me so I can never think about it again. Because right now, like, I randomly think about it and I think about how much I hated the first book. I just felt like none of the characters were distinguishable from each other, and there was just like all of a sudden a bunch of side characters that appeared at the very end, and I just found myself not really caring. And so I really feel like I could probably go into this and not really feel like I missed anything, because I really don't feel like anything happened in the first book. That's just my opinion. If you love this series, I'm so jealous because I wish. Next for November, we have Outlander. I watched the first season of this show and really liked it. Definitely very autumnal, just cozy, dark, like there's some really sad things that happen in it, but just the overall atmosphere of it is very cozy, very autumn, late autumn, early winter feeling. And so I've had this for a while and I really want to read it. If you're not familiar with the TV show, I don't know how much it stays true to the book series. So I'm not going to speak to the show, which is so hideously advertised right here on this irremovable sticker, but I will tell you what the book is about. It's set in the Scottish Highlands in 1945. Claire Randall, a former British combat nurse, is just back from the war and reunited with her husband on a second honeymoon when she walks through a standing stone in one of the ancient circles that dot the British Isles. Suddenly, she is a Sassenach, an outlander, in a Scotland torn by war and raiding clans in the year of our Lord, 1743. Claire is catapulted into the intrigues of war that threaten her life and may shatter her heart too. Marooned amid danger, passion, and violence, her only chance of safety lies in Jamie Fraser, a gallant young Scots warrior. What begins in compulsion becomes urgent need, and Claire finds herself torn between two very different men in two very irreconcilable lives. This is one where I watched the show and I've just heard so many good things about the book. It is a long book series. It's kind of like Game of Thrones. It just keeps going. Do I expect to finish this whole series? No. But am I gonna read this for the vibes? Yeah, I probably will. If I enjoy it, maybe one day I'll pick up the next book. I don't see myself running to buy the rest of the series after reading this. She is quite large with quite small font. It might inspire me to go back and watch the TV show. Next is Babel, or as some say, Babel, by R.F. Kuang. In the States, I believe it's meant to be pronounced Babel, but I do know in the UK it's pronounced Babel. I know experts go back and forth on this one quite a bit. I do believe it's pronounced Babel historically, but who really cares? I used to care. And then I realized I don't need to be a snob. I don't need to care anymore. But Babel by R.F. Kuang. This is quite a large, dark academia. I do believe it is a fantasy book. I think there are elements of fantasy in this. I have read one book by R.F. Kuang, and that was Yellowface. I enjoyed it. I'm still trying to understand her a little bit. I do believe she is a smart woman, which therefore does make me dumb in the context of the writer versus the reader. And so reading this book, I'm definitely expecting to be overwhelmed. I'm definitely expecting to have moments where I'm like, what is going on? What did I miss? And what does that word mean? I like that. I actually don't mind if the author thinks that I'm dumb, because that means the book should be elevated enough for me to learn something from it and not just breeze through it and understand it and never think about it again. I think that a lot of great philosophers and a lot of great authors of classics did write books for dumb readers. By those dumb readers reading the book, they became less dumb. And so I actually think we need to stop writing books that make people feel like 100% seen and that it's always written at their level, their reading level. Like, no, it's okay to challenge people. And I do believe that while I see some of these booktubers' points, I also do feel like there's nothing wrong with challenging your readers and making them feel like maybe the book wasn't entirely written for them at their knowledge at that point. And hopefully, I think the hope is to inspire them to educate themselves. I'm really hoping that this book does that for me. I've talked a lot about the author and her writing, but not actually the book itself. So here we go. 1828, Robin Swift, orphaned by cholera in Canton, is brought to London by the mysterious Professor Lovell. There, Robin trains for years in Latin, ancient Greek, and Chinese, all in preparation for the day he'll enroll in Oxford University's prestigious Royal Institute of Translation, also known as Babel. The tower and its students are the world's center for translation and, more importantly, magic. Silver working, the art of manifesting the meaning lost in translation using enchanted silver bars, has made the British unparalleled in power as the arcane craft serves the empire's quest for colonization. For Robin, Oxford is a utopia dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge, but knowledge obeys power, and as a Chinese boy raised in Britain, he realizes serving Babel means betraying his motherland. As his studies progress, Robin finds himself caught between Babel and the shadowy Hermes Society, an organization dedicated to stopping imperial expansion. When Britain pursues an unjust war with China over silver and opium, Robin must decide, can powerful institutions be changed from within, or does revolution always require violence? Just the comment about Latin, ancient Greek, and Chinese, I definitely feel like there's going to be some philosophical and classical texts that will be referred to. I mean, it does take place in Oxford. It is supposed to be very prestigious. I'm ready for a book that's going to challenge me. Like I said, I read a lot of romance this summer. Am I saying that reading 18 romance books in a row made me dumb? Yeah, I kind of am. Like, I definitely feel like I lost some brain cells reading those. I had a great time. I'm not going to judge those books at all. I loved them. It was great. But I'm ready to challenge my brain a little bit. I'm ready to have my brain hurt from reading a book a little bit because I feel like I've just kind of been coasting. And I definitely do not think this is a book you can coast through. I'm interested to see how my experience of an R.F. Kuang book changes after reading this one. I do plan to read this one before Katabasis. I don't know. Something's just telling me to read this first, but we'll see. Maybe I'll start it and I won't feel it, but Katabasis I can jump right into, and then I'll come back to this. We'll see. Speaking of Katabasis, this is R.F. Kuang's new book. I feel so lucky to have this edition since the book is so new in the US. It's only out in hardcover. However, I was just in Europe and the UK covers and editions were for sale. And I personally think that this cover design of Katabasis is way better than the US cover design. This just catches the eye more. I love the foiling, and it's also a paperback, which I freaking love a paperback. I agree with everybody who says that hardcovers should be released after a year and not first. I just think paperbacks are so much better. I was able to travel with this. Had this been hardback, I would not have. I actually saw the hardback of this while I was in Europe, and I was just so upset because I couldn't bring it home. It wouldn't fit in my bag. And then I saw this at the airport as a soft cover, and I was immediately sold and I was able to buy it. So US Publishing, take notes. I avoided a hardcover. I intentionally bought the paperback, and I bought it in another country. US Publishing, you didn't make a dime off me. Sucks. Anyways, Katabasis is one I've really looked forward to because it's inspired by Dante's Inferno, and I read the Inferno 3 times in college between freshman and senior year, and then I read Purgatorio and Paradiso both once because I had a semester-long class strictly on Dante and his Commedia, and this is based off of Inferno specifically. Grad student Alice Law has only ever had one goal: to become the brightest mind in the field of analytic magic. Magick. But the only person who can make her dream come true is dead and inconveniently in hell. And Alice, along with her biggest rival, Peter Murdoch, is going after him. Now, this person who can help her, I do believe, is her professor, who has died and was apparently a really bad person and is now in hell. But hell is not as the philosophers claim. Its rules are upside down, and if she's going to get out of there alive, she and Peter will have to work together. That's if they can agree on anything. Will they triumph or will they kill each other? It is phrased in the back like a romance. I actually do not believe this is going to be a heavy romance book. I could be wrong, but this is one I do fully intend to annotate. I always annotate my books, just kind of highlighting quotes that I like. Sometimes I write in the margins my thoughts. I tend to stay away from that though. I don't know why. I stopped doing that after college. This is one though I'm going to be writing down and researching words I don't understand, quotes or philosophers. I really want to treat this as a classic, and I want to annotate it the way that I annotated classics in college. I miss reading books that way. I miss writing down my thoughts and my hypotheses and research that I did in the margins. So I'm going to treat Katabasis like that. On the first impression, this synopsis definitely feels more palatable than Babel. Babel seems more academically intense than Katabasis. However, people who have read Katabasis already have said the opposite. They've said Katabasis required a lot more brain power than they expected, and that was coming from people who read Babel and thought it took a lot of brain power. So I'm really excited for this one because it narrows it down, and it is specifically based off of a compilation of 3 classics, but ultimately Dante's Commedia, which I read multiple times in college. So it is still very fresh in my mind. It's also a classic that I hold very close to my heart. I'm still good friends with my professors who taught me everything, and they're very important people to me. So having this kind of book, I hope it does the memory of all of my studies those 4 years justice. I hope that it really is as thought-provoking as I hope it is, and maybe it's one that I can, recommend to people as a segue into exploring classics a little bit more. And I'm really excited for this book because a lot of people started reading the classics in order to prepare for Katabasis. That's just amazing. I definitely think we need to start reading the classics again, reading classics that people are uncomfortable with as well, and also reading as close as possible to the literal translation of the classics. Honestly, not every word translates in every language, so you have to take some liberties there, but taking artistic liberty in a translation often ruins the selective verbiage that the original author chose. Dante's Commedia specifically was a poem. Changing things to rhyme in the English language often changes the verbiage that in Dante's case he specifically chose. I think it's better to have books not rhyme in the English language just to try to keep it as true as possible to the original storyline and words that the author chose. If you are going in thinking that Dante and Homer and Boccaccio are all geniuses when it comes to their writing, then it's better to take them very literally and take every word for what it is instead of change it to be more poetic or understandable in a modern context. I had to learn that in the hard way in school, and so I'm really hoping that R.F. Kuang takes it that way as well. We will see, but I am very, very excited to read this book. This is one, when I heard it was coming out, I might have screamed. It's Dante. It's amazing, and I want people to know how amazing Dante is. And I really hope this book, no matter how loosely or how closely tied it is to Inferno, I hope it inspires you to pick up Inferno and read it. It is so, so good. If you're looking for a good translation of Dante's Commedia to compare to this, Richmond Lattimore, and he also did Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. Fantastic, and you can see the original language next to the English language when you buy those books. Highly, highly recommend. They are an investment, but they are, in my opinion and my professor's opinion, the best translation of these books that you can get. So if you're treating this as an academic read, I would recommend comparing it to those books. Moving on, kind of similar, the Atlas 6. I've had this one for not quite very long, but I did buy it with anticipation of autumn. Each decade, only the 6 most uniquely talented magicians are selected to earn a place in the Alexandrian Society, the foremost secret society in the world. The chosen will secure a life of power and prestige beyond their wildest dreams, but at what cost? Each of the 6 newest recruits has their reasons for accepting the society's elusive invitation, even if it means growing closer than they would have imagined to their most dangerous enemies, or risk unforgivable betrayal from their most trusted allies. They will fight tooth and nail for the right to join the ranks of the Alexandrians, even if it means they won't all survive the year. This definitely sounds like a book where it's gonna be no plot resolution, just vibes, because after reading that synopsis, it really just didn't give me much, but I definitely think it's gonna be atmospheric and an interesting vibe. But I feel like by the end of it, I'll be like, that was a book, but the vibes were cool. And sometimes that's all you need for a 5-star. This is also another one I've heard very 50-50 reviews on. People either love Olivia Blake and this book series, or they hate it and they'll never read anything by Olivia Blake again. I'm hoping I fall in the former group. Tell me that this isn't the most November dreary looking book that you've ever seen. I think this book literally looks so beautiful. Oh, I love Lorelei Caskell, a folklorist with a quick temper and an even quicker wit, is on an expedition with 6 eccentric nobles in search of a fabled spring. The magical spring promises untold power, which the king wants to harness in order to secure his reign over the embattled country of Brunestad. Lorelei is determined to use this opportunity to prove herself and make her wildest, most impossible dream come true, to become a naturalist, able to travel freely to lands she's only read about. The expedition gets off to a harrowing start when its leader, Lorelei's beloved mentor, is murdered in her quarters aboard their ship. Spoiler! Ugh, I hate when that happens. Let me feel the pain of the terrible thing that's gonna happen in the first couple pages. Like, come on. The suspects are the 5 remaining expedition mates, each with their own motive. The only person Lorelei knows must be innocent is her longtime academic rival, the insufferably gallant and maddeningly beautiful Sylvia von Wolf, now in charge of the expedition. Lorelei must find the spring before the murderer strikes again and a coup begins in earnest. But there are other dangers lurking in the dark. Forests that rearrange themselves at night, rivers with slumbering dragons hiding beneath the water, and shape-shifting beasts out for blood. As Lorelei and Sylvia grudgingly work together to uncover the truth and resist their growing feelings for each other, they discover that their leader has secrets of her own. Secrets that make Lorelei question whether justice is worth pursuing and if this kingdom is worth saving at all. I love stories where the person who's like out to save their kingdom realizes that their kingdom might actually be the bad guy. I think that that's like every villain origin story. They feel like they're the good guy, and if they stay the villain, it's because they really thought to the end that they were the good guy. When they have that redemption arc, if they're the villain, then they realize I'm actually on the wrong team. Similar to that is the second book in Emily Wilde. This is The Map of the Otherlands. Again, I'm hoping that this fits the November vibe because I'm trying to go based off of the first book and how I wish I had read it in November or December instead of in the spring. I'm not going to go into the details of this book in particular. Generally, this is just a really cozy fantasy, low stakes, tidbits of longing and romance. You probably get 1 page of romance this entire series and you're just pining for it. You want it so bad. You get crumbs and you're just like, yes. But honestly, just like a cute, cozy fantasy. I thought I would be really bored with the first book and I ended up loving it, and it was just one where I could turn my brain off, but it wasn't a palate cleanser of a cozy fantasy. So it was a really unique experience and definitely one I think I can just see myself, especially over Thanksgiving break when I just have time and I'm not trying to like rapid read every night after work. I could just kind of take my couple days off and slowly read and enjoy a book, and I think this is going to be one of those. Finally, the book of Azriel, however you pronounce it. This has been on my TBR for so long. I bought this 4 years ago, maybe. The description on the back is really short, but I'll read it to you anyways. For 1,000 years after the gods' war, the Etherworld has known peace, but soon that too will change. An old enemy driven by revenge slowly builds an army behind the scenes. Temples are being ransacked in search of an item long lost, and enemies since the dawn of time must put aside their differences if they have any hope for survival. This is a dark fantasy. I do believe there's romance in this one. I don't want to call it a romantasy because I really don't know anything about this series. I've tried to go in blind. This is one I've heard is extremely underhyped. I've seen it on my For You page because I feel like my For You page is catered to books like this. So it feels overhyped because I see it so often, but everyone says it's underhyped. So I'm going to assume that this is not on everyone's For You page. This seems really good. I've heard it's definitely like one of those fantasies that does it better than other fantasies, and that books like this should be raved about more than maybe Fourth Wing or ACOTAR or things like that. Again, those aren't my words. That's just kind of the impression I'm getting. Again, this is one I'm going to judge by the cover. Definitely giving fall vibes, dark, dreary vibes. Maybe it's not. Maybe it doesn't fit that at all, but it's been on my TBR long enough. I feel like I finally need to read it, and I do believe potentially it might be on my 25 and 2025 list. If it's not, it should be, because this has been on my TBR for way too long. All right, guys, holy cannoli. That was a lot of books. Again, I do not expect to read all 20 of these books. I'm up 65 books into the year. My goal is 100. So I do want to read a good chunk of these books, but I'm going to be mood reading these books. I'm not going to choose them because I have to read them. I'm giving myself a wide enough list so that I can kind of cherry pick the books that I'm feeling. And yeah, maybe just save some for next fall. I'm not putting the burden on myself to read all 21 of these books, but I do know some that I will for sure be reading before year end. And I hope Babel and Katabasis are 2 of those because I am really excited about those. Also, honorable mention, my Fable Book Club chose Blood Over Bright Haven for our September read, and I just started it. Holy crap. That first chapter might be the most intense first chapter I've ever read. I've never been moved to tears by a first chapter. In fact, I rarely cry when it comes to books. Usually audiobooks move me, but reading a book doesn't. And I was reading and I was doing the trying not to cry, and like Kyle's like, you need to go to bed. There's no way first chapter is making you cry, but it did. So if you're feeling left out because that description swayed you, we would love to read with you. I'll make sure my Fable link is down below. I've heard mixed things about Blood Over Bright Haven, but it has incredible reviews, and so far my experience of it has been very good. And again, it seems like it's one that's going to challenge me. It seems like one that has an elevated prose. So please join my Fable if you are interested, and it does seem like it'll fit the kind of autumnal theme of this video. So there you go, a little bonus book. But thank you all so much for watching. It's been a while since I posted. I was traveling quite a bit, so I'm excited to catch up. I will be posting some reading wrap-ups and TBR videos to come soon. I would love to hear your recommended autumn books and also books that are on your autumn TBR. Love the recommendations. I'm interested if we have any of the same ones. And if you don't recommend any of these books for autumn because the vibe is actually not autumnal, let me know. Save me the heartache. But thank you all so much for watching, and I'm excited to see you for my next video. Love ya.